This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's special guest is a beloved and multi-award winning actor, producer, director, and author who's brought us dozens of memorable performances in classic movies, including The Boys from Brazil, Diner, Cocoon, Short Circuit, Bedroom Window, Surrender, Three Men and a Baby, Roe vs. Wade, and of course, the four great Police Academy movies. He also wrote, directed, produced, and starred in P.S. Your Cat is Dead. And for his performance in A Novel Romance, he won a Best Actor award from the New York International Independent Film and Video Festival. On TV, you've seen him in many shows and movies, including To Race the Wind, Miracle on Ice, The Day After, Veronica Mars, Law and Order Criminal Intent, Sons of Liberty, Ballers, The Goldbergs, and Party Down, for which he was nominated for a Gold Derby Award for Best Guest Comedy Actor. And of course, we all remember his amazing performances on season 6 of Dancing with the Stars. And on the stage, he starred in The Boys Next Door in London's West End, and Prelude to a Kiss, and Honeymoon Motel on Broadway, as well as Furthest from the Sun, Henry IV, and numerous other theatrical productions. He earned a Daytime Emmy Award nomination for producing an episode of the CBS School Break special called Gangs. And in 2011, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And if all of that weren't enough, our guest is also a best-selling author. His first book, The Guttenberg Bible, is a comedic account of his first 10 years in the film industry. He then wrote a terrific children's book called The Kids from Disco, and on May the 21st, his brand new book entitled Time to Thank, Caregiving for My Hero will be released. The book is a heartwarming and at times heart-wrenching memoir of our guest's unbreakable bond with his wise, loving, and devoted father, his hero, as he chronicles his newfound role as a caregiver in his father's final years, reflecting on their eventful life together and the enduring impact of their extraordinarily close relationship. Our guest is also a renowned philanthropist. He started the Guten House Project, which provides housing in Los Angeles for foster care youth when they turn 18. He also organized a campaign to provide glasses for children whose families cannot afford vision care. In fact, the Entertainment Industry Foundation selected him to be ambassador for children's issues because of his work on behalf of children and the homeless. In addition, he has served as an honorary board member of the Lymphatic Education and Research Network, and he's also a passionate advocate for animal welfare through his work with the Fun Paw Care organization. In 2008, he received the Tony Randall Lifetime Achievement Award for his work in the entertainment industry, as well as his community service. I'm delighted and honored to welcome Steve Guttenberg to our show. Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Harvey, thank you, and thank you for that elegant and detailed introduction. I don't think I've ever had someone be so wonderful and so generous and gracious. Thank you so much, Harvey.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Steve, I want to tell you that I really loved your new book because you allowed us to get to know your dad, who by all accounts was an amazing human being. What inspired you to write the book?
You know, I was sitting with my dad for many years when we were doing dialysis, and it was a very hard and terrible time when someone is ill. At the same time, it was such a blessed and God-given time that I got to just look into my father's coal black eyes. But I was there a lot, and I was in the grocery store in the town that I live in here in California. And I bumped into a guy named Jake Steinfeld, who's a friend of mine who did Body by Jake. He's a fitness guru, a fitness icon. He said, I haven't seen you in a long time. Where you been? And I told him that I was taking care of my dad, and I was in LA, but I was leaving at 3 a.m. on a Monday, coming back on Thursday, and taking my dad to dialysis Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And he said, and I told him about the drive through the desert, the California desert and the Arizona desert, the Swaran Desert, where I started listening to podcasts, I started listening to music, and I stopped and I just thought. And the drive really got me thinking about my dad when he was younger, when he would put on my pajamas, when he would help me in the shower. And now, as my dad was not well, I put on his pajamas and I helped him in the shower. And he said, and I told him about the drive, the 400 miles each way, and the old buildings and the deserted towns that I would walk around, which reminded me of my dad, once vital and once full of people living full lives. And now they're deserted and decaying. And he said, I think that's a book. And I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah, I'm an author. And he's done about 8 books. And he said, I'm going to tell you something. You should talk to my agent. And I spoke to Jan Miller, who's a wonderful agent out of Dallas. And I told her my story. And she said, I do think it's a book. And she said, write a few pages. I wrote a few pages. And before I knew it, there we go. She sold it to a wonderful publisher. And I was on my way. So I started writing every day next to my father when he was doing dialysis. And I would tell him about the book, and I would tell him when I was writing. And some of it was very, very difficult because it was about his illness. And that was really tough to deal with and to remember and to write. But he helped me with it. And I didn't know at the end that he would pass, and that the end of the book would be my feelings about him passing and what it was like to lose someone who you love so dearly. But that was my inspiration for the book. Basically, Jake in front of the meat counter telling me, I think that's a book. I think you should write it.
Well, I'm really glad he did. I was very touched by something you wrote in the book. You said, and I'm quoting you here, I believe God gives us spaces of time in life that can be filled with what is needed. And this time in my life is for me to give devotional attention to my parents, to embrace them, to repay them for all they've done for me. Steve, anyone, including myself, who's ever cared for a parent in the final stages of their life can easily relate to those words. Your dad passed away July 11th, 2022. How are you doing now?
He passed away on 7/11. Can you believe it? 7/11. He always had a good sense of humor. I'm doing okay. I still have this melancholy inside me, this pain, which I think we all know when someone close to you passes. You never really lose that pain. You deal with it and you live with it and you forget it sometimes. One of the great gifts that God gives us is the ability to forget. People think that it's not so great to forget. Sometimes it's actually good to forget. So you go through the day and you forget that they've passed. And then something will remind you and it'll hit you like a needle in the arm or a sharp piece of glass in the chest. Very beginning, the first year was very tough, and I was in grief. Grief has its way with you. One of the fellows who works at the cemetery where my dad is said a great line. He said, grief has its way, and it has its way with you. And you don't know when it's going to come and when that dark cloud's going to come over you.
Well, your father, Stanley Jerome Guttenberg, had quite a life. He was a paratrooper in the Korean War. He was a New York police officer. He had 2 degrees in electrical engineering and accounting, and he was an executive at a top electronics company. And most importantly, he was a devoted husband, father, grandfather, and family man. I hope it gives you comfort to know, Steve, that you've immortalized your dad in this book.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think of it that way. You're the first person who said that, but I appreciate that. And he would love that. He loved my notoriety. He always got a kick out of that. And when they found out he was my dad, people, swarmed him and loved him and gave him such accolades and celebration. He loved to tell people that I was his son. I can tell you a funny story. One time we were having a breakfast in Florida where my mom and dad were living at a diner. Me and my friend Donald and my father and Donald's kids. And the waitress came over. My dad was wearing a baseball cap. And the waitress asked her for our orders, and Donald gave his kids orders. And the waitress looked at me and said, "And what are you having? And what's your son having?" And pointed to my dad. I said, "My son, my father."
What
My
a
dad was
guy.
my dad was always in really great shape and fit. He had an incredible smile. He had a beautiful face, great glowing eyes. So many stories about my dad.
The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, Steve.
Mm,
You know, one of the things
you
I
as
learned
well.
about you in this book is that you were quite a challenge as a kid. You took apart the dashboard of your father's brand new car, and then you took apart your mother's brand new dishwasher. Why do you
Yeah.
think you were such a mischievous kid?
Well, I was trying to help because, first of all, the car was delivered before my mother came home from work, and I opened the door and I closed the door, and the dashboard rattled. And I said, a dashboard should not rattle when you close the door. I'm 12 years old. I know these things. So I went downstairs to my father's workbench, got a Phillips screwdriver, and I tried to tighten up the dashboard, but I thought, well, maybe I should take the dashboard off, find out what's rattling, and then put it back on. That didn't work out so well. And then another day, my mother got a brand new dishwasher, 1971. You know how fantastic that was to get a dishwasher. You wouldn't have to wash dishes anymore. And they delivered it. And I wondered what would happen if you pushed two buttons at once. And I did that, and they got stuck. And I said, well, I'm going to go get that Phillips screwdriver. I'm going to take off the back of the dishwasher and fix it. That didn't work out too well. My dad had a great way of disciplining me. No, it didn't work out. So I was always trying to help. My dad would bring me upstairs, sit me on the bed. He would look out, and I would look out for the window, and he would say, "Stephen, what's wrong with you? Th- think about it." And I'd say, "I don't know, Dad." And he'd say, "Okay, but don't do that again."
What
And
a
that was it.
guy. What a guy he was. You know, there's a very strong theme that flows all the way through your book, Steve, and it's the fact that your parents, and especially your dad, really believed in your dream of becoming a successful actor. They even let you go to Hollywood by yourself when you were only 17 to try your luck in show business. That's really unusual, don't you think?
My God, who would let their kid go to Hollywood at 17? And especially today. But in those days, we didn't have as much communication as we have right now. And we didn't know that there were any weirdos really out there in Hollywood. And I was very lucky. I never had any kind of incidents. But my parents let me go stay with a family friend and try to become an actor. And I had 2 weeks to become a movie star. And I was then going to go back to Albany State University and go to school. But my parents' friend, Michael Bell, who was my godfather, he introduced me to his agent. He was an actor. And I actually got a commercial, a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. And my parents let me stay another 2 weeks, and I got another commercial. Before I knew it, I stayed a year, and I got a bunch of commercials, a movie, a television movie. But I didn't like it out here. I didn't like the culture. I really was pretty lonely. So I went back to Albany State, and when I was there about 5, 6 months, and I got a call from my agent about a movie called The Boys from Brazil with Laurence Olivier and Gregory Peck. And they asked if I would come out and audition for it. I really didn't want to, but I thought, I'll go audition. I won't get it, and that'll be it. But I got the part. And then the roller coaster started again.
Well, you wore your dad's Police Academy shirt as a good luck charm for your audition for Police Academy, and obviously it worked. What did he think of your Police Academy movies?
Well, he loved them. He loved them. He was a really dedicated police officer. He loved the NYPD, and he loved helping people. He loved being a cop. But after a while, my mom couldn't take it. It was too much for her to wait for him every night. But when he when he found out I was auditioning for a movie called Police Academy, he said, "I'm going to send you my Police Academy shirt." and you should wear it for the audition. I said, well, yeah, I already have the audition. Now I have a screen test, Dad. He said, wear my police academy shirt to the screen test. So he sent it out, special delivery, and I put it on. And before I knew it, I had the audition. There was one guy on before me who auditioned, screen tested, and he was brilliant. He could sing, he could dance, he could act, he was handsome. And I thought I had no chance. But I came home with my father's police academy shirt, his lucky shirt. And the director, a guy named Hugh Wilson, said, did you make that shirt? I said, no, I didn't make it. It's my dad's. I auditioned and I thought I didn't get it. No one clapped, no one laughed, nothing during my audition. The other guy, they went crazy. I went home and I called my agent and I said, I don't think I got it. He said, well, I got to tell you the news. You got it. And it was my father's lucky shirt. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There's a great chapter in the book about the day your dad performed a stunt for Blake Edwards in front of Julie Andrews, who ended up giving him a big hug. I got the impression that your father, actually both of your parents, really enjoyed sharing some very special moments in your career. That must be so gratifying to know that they were so proud of you.
Harvey, the best part of being famous is sharing it. That's the best part. That's the best part. Your parents get preferred doctor appointments and tables at restaurants, and your sisters, when someone hears their name, they're able to get ahead in line. And your family, your friends, your wife, your husband, whoever you have, when they use your name, it carries a little weight. Someone says, wait, Steve Guttenberg? That's your son? That's your husband? That's your brother? Wait a minute. Oh, no, I think we do have room. Hold on. My mother tells a great story, but she goes to try to get an appointment with a gynecologist. And it was a month away. She couldn't get an appointment for a month. But the receptionist said, hold on here. Guttenberg, is your son Steve Guttenberg? Any relation? She goes, yeah, that is my son. She goes, hold on one second. How's about tomorrow, 9 a.m.? My mother said, I'll be there.
Wow.
And she had the appointment with the doctor, and he was examining her. And he started oohing and eyeing. And my mother said, doctor, is everything okay? He looked at me and said, oh, yeah. I was just looking where Steve Guttenberg came from.
So do you mind if I tell everybody you're my adopted brother?
Not at all. Not at all. There's nothing like sharing it. And that's the best part. It really is.
You actually got to direct your dad in the movie P.S. Your Cat is Dead. How was that experience?
It was wonderful. And my mom was in the movie too, but we had to cut her out of some of the movie. But my mom and dad came that day, and we got them a big giant trailer to stay in during the day. And my father played a homeless guy, and it was wonderful. And it was wonderful to work with my dad and to see him enjoy the excitement of it and the special treatment and people putting the makeup on and touching his wardrobe. And oh my God. My dad also had a great saying, don't walk a mile for someone who won't cross the street for you, but walk 10,000 miles through a hurricane for 1 minute with someone you love. I always thought that was a great one.
That is a really, really profound statement about what really matters in life and who you should surround yourself with. What would you say is the most important aspect of your personality that you inherited from your dad?
That's a great question. I would say my dad's ability to recover, his resilience, his ability to say, okay, that happened, let's move on. Really good at that. And I've gotten a chip off the old block of that. I'm not as good as him, but I aspire to be. And also his ability to chat. My dad always said, a friend is a stranger first. And it's true. So he always had the ability to stop and chat with all kinds of people. He loved to stop and chat. He only made a few really deep friends, and his real friends were in the family. So he wasn't an incredibly social guy. Like he didn't go to a poker club, or he didn't go out at night with the boys to a bar. But he loved to stop and chat. He remembered things. How's your mom? You told me 2 weeks ago she's not doing well. Is she all right? Good. She's better. Okay. He goes by and he remembered a little doggy's name. He stopped and chat wherever he was in the country club or wherever he was staying hello in the office, in the warehouse where he worked, and he had guys working for him there. He would always say hello to my friends and just come down and say, how's everything? What's going on? Did you get into college? What's going on? He was great at the stop and chat. And I like it too. I love saying hello to people. I love smiling at people, saying good morning. I was talking to a guy named Adam Carolla yesterday, and we were talking about the wave. It's really important to wave to people. A car goes by, wave. Someone walks by, hi, hey, good morning, hi, hello. You're the only people on the street. Someone walks by you, hello, good morning, hi, how you doing? Really important. My dad was great at that. Hi. And my dad had a great smile and beautiful
Well,
eyes.
like I said, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And I think that your charisma, your warmth, your sincerity all comes from those beautiful parents of yours. Steve, I want to ask you about some of the movies you wrote about in your book. When you and your fellow actors were shooting Diner, how much of what we saw was improvised?
Some of it. Barry Levinson wrote a brilliant script, and he had a terrific ability and habit of letting the script roll out during the scene. And at the end of the scene, he wanted to see what we would do. So he didn't say cut. And, we were hungry actors, and we just jumped on that like tigers on a piece of meat. And we just started to improv. So we would improv, and he would say cut. And he would say, I like this. I didn't like that. I like that. I like that. I like that. Do that. We do the scene, and then we added those things at the end. And before we knew it, we had all kinds of improv. The great roast beef improv with Paul Reiser and I that I love, and Paul was brilliant in. And the scene with me and Mickey Rourke when we're talking about my character's virginity, that came from Mickey and I were friends, and I wanted to have a scene with Mickey, and so did Mickey. So what happened was we got to a point where we came to Barry and said, can we have a scene together? He said, and this was about 2 a.m. He goes, let me think about it. So about 3:30 in the morning, he came back to us. He said, I got it. And we sat down, and the story was that Mickey and I, Boogie and Eddie, are talking about getting married and about my character, Eddie's a virgin. And I thought it was a terrific scene about me. And in the middle of the scene, Mickey takes the sugar holder and pours the sugar into his mouth, picks up a Coca-Cola and washes it down, steals the scene. My dad said, that's good. I said, Dad, he stole the scene from me. He said, no, you're on the same team. If a baseball player steals a base, he steals it for the team. At the end of the game, you all win. At the end of the World Series, everybody gets a ring. So it doesn't matter who steals the scene as long as it's stolen.
That was such good advice because, well, when I saw the scene, I never felt like he stole it, but what he did made the scene even more memorable than your character, Eddie, admitting to Mickey that he was a virgin. Did you ever use any of Mickey's tricks to steal a scene in any of your other movies?
I started stealing scenes as much as I could, and I still try to do it legally, and you don't want to overstep your bounds. You don't want to upstage anybody, let their back be toward the camera. But the idea is to be great. That's the idea. The idea in a scene is to be as creative and spontaneous and as authentic and real as you can be, and then do something memorable, because movies, plays, television, books, paintings are all about moments. What's the moment in that great movie? So if you can make a moment, it's good for everybody. And if you steal it, when I say steal, I say in the sense of make it great, make yourself great, make yourself stand out. Gregory Peck told me, be bold. You want to stand out. You want people to say, who is that guy? You know?
Yeah, you want to be memorable. Were you surprised when Vanity Fair called Diner the most influential film of the last 30 years?
It was of all the movies, Godfather. I mean, just all the movies. E.T., we were chosen to be the most influential movie of the last 30 years. Pretty fantastic.
He really was. You also wrote about Cocoon in your book. You said that what you remember most from the set of Cocoon was the wisdom and the laughter. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh, yeah. Hume Cronin and Jessica Tandy wanted to have dinner with me. I said, okay. So we went and had dinner. And we're sitting there having a lovely dinner. And they said, we've got some advice for you. Can you guess what it is? And I said, know the script as well as you can. No. Go to acting class as often as you can. No. Um, be as kind and respectful of your fellow players as you can. No. Uh, be as authentic in a scene as you can. No. I said, what's the best advice? Save your money.
Oh, wow. Manage your
And
finances.
yes, and it's very important for an artist to manage your money, to manage your finances, because you have periods where you work a lot, and then you are going to have periods where you don't. I don't care who you are. There are going to be periods where it's slow for any artist, any sculptor, painter, writer, director, actor, producer, anyone, podcaster.
Yes,
You're going
even a
to have,
talk show host.
even a talk show host, you're going to have time where it's slow, but you still want to live your life. You still want to be able to pay your bills. Be penurious, be smart. You don't have to live your life and worry. But you know what? There's a great theory. If you make $10, pay yourself first. Give yourself $1. Then the other nine, you deal with taxes and what it costs to live. But put 10% away all the time. And before you know, Albert Einstein thought that compounded interest was one of the greatest miracles of all time. And it's very, very important, especially for an actor, to put money away.
Yeah, that's good advice. I read that you turned down the starring role in Big that went to Tom Hanks and the starring role in Ghostbusters that went to Bill Murray. Is that right?
I, I've heard that 1,000 times. And I really don't remember a lot of the pictures that I turned down or wasn't able to do because I was doing other movies. Between 1980 and 1990, I did more movies than any other actor in the Screen Actors Guild, tying the great Gene Hackman. And I thought that was unbelievable. But I was working all the time. For 20 years, I was home very few, maybe 2 months a year, if that. And I was working all the time, all over the world. So people have told me that I was offered Big, and I remember meeting with Penny Marshall several times, and Ghostbusters was, I remember talking to Ivan Reitman about it, but it's, the truth is, it's hard for me to believe that anyone else would have gotten the offer other than Tom Hanks for Big, or Bill Murray and Aykroyd and those guys for Ghostbusters, because Ivan Reitman and Ramis, they were all friends. So, but I know that I got a ton of offers that I had to turn down because I was busy. But it makes for a good story. But if you ever saw a Big, who else could do that part but Tom Hanks? It was so brilliant in everything he does. And who else could, play any part in Ghostbusters other than Aykroyd and Ramis and Ernie Hudson and Bill Murray? Who else could have been in that? So
Yeah,
it's
but
hard.
Steve, who else could have danced like you did in Can't Stop the Music with the Village People? And
Oh
then
God.
on season 6 on Dancing with the Stars. Where did you learn to dance so well?
My dad and my mom are great dancers. They were always great dancers. And they would dance in the living room. And I learned how to dance through them and a friend of mine named Marty Weber, who now lives in Portland. In high school, the two of us would dance in my living room to a song called Love Machine. I forgot who it's by. And by the Miracles, maybe. And so I was a pretty good dancer in high school, and I've always been a pretty good dancer. So in Can't Stop the Music, a musical I did actually with Caitlyn Jenner, who was Bruce Jenner then, and Valerie Perrine, and directed by the great Nancy Walker, and produced by Alan Carr, and starred the Village People. I danced in that, and then I was also the first season of Dancing with the Stars. I got a call from the president of the network asking me to do Dancing with the Stars, and it wasn't for me. So 6 years later, 7 years later, I wasn't working, and I was a little cold. And my manager said, it's time for you to do Dancing with the Stars. It might heat you up. And I went and I did the show, and I had a tough time with it, but I love dancing. So I was able to have a wonderful teacher, Anna Trebinskaya, who was a wonderful dancer, and I was able to take, ballroom dancing is wonderful. So I was taking classes 5 days a week, private classes with a world class dancer. And when you're driving a Ferrari 5 days a week, you'll learn to you pull up in a Ferrari, it looks like you know how to drive it. So
You looked really
uh,
good.
that's so nice of you, Harvey. Thanks.
Now, Steve, you were very frank in your book about the harsh realities of life in Hollywood, which you described as the most emotionally stunted and transactional city on the planet. You wrote about the insincerity of people who only care about you when you're on top of the world and making loads of money. Your dad used to say, laugh, and the whole world laughs with you, cry, and you cry alone. In other words, there are very few people in this world who really care about you and will really be there for you when you need support. Did your father's encouragement and advice help you protect yourself from being hurt by people who let you down?
Yeah, I can't say that I haven't been hurt and disappointed in people, but I do understand the rules of Hollywood. There are people who care even if you're not on top. There are. When my dad was sick, he told me to go talk to the smartest, nicest person I know in show business. And he wanted me to get back into the business. And I went and spoke to a wonderful man named Brian Lord, who said to me, I don't think you're done. And he helped me get back in the business. So there are great people like Brian, and there are caring people who don't look at the temperature or your barometer and value you that way. But for the most part, people look at where you're at right now. What have you done lately? How important are you? How can you help me? And those are the rules. I don't like them, but those are the rules. And you have to accept them. You don't have to resign to them, but you have to accept them and play the game. So my dad always told me, play the game. That's how it's run. Play the game. You can't fight City Hall sometimes. Play the game.
But your
So,
dad also told you to believe in yourself no matter what anybody says. And I think that's how you give a child a healthy self esteem so they can
yeah,
withstand whatever life throws at them, don't you think?
yes. And it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to remember that, to believe in yourself when everyone's telling you that you're not so great. When everyone tells you you're too short, you're too tall, you're too ethnic, you're not ethnic enough, your voice is low, your voice is high. We don't want you. It's tough. It's tough to come home. And in any case, any time when you're not being chosen to play a basketball game in the neighborhood court, or a movie, or a television show, or a play, or an acting scene where in class they choose 3 people and you're not chosen. Boy, you got to really stand up tall. You got to go back to it. I'm going to tell you the secret, Harvey. You got to remember who loves you. Think about who loves you. What do they think about you? What do your family think? What does your friends think? What do they think about you? And name them. Your mother, your father, your friends, your family, the people you're married to, the people who love you. What do they think about you? And that's what the reality is. So if this guy doesn't know me and he doesn't think I'm that great, that's okay. Because I think I'm that great. I think I'm that great. And they think I'm that great. And that's where you have to remember they think that you're great. And when you remember that, and when you really grab hold of that, then you have the strength to keep going. You have to get your tools together because it's cold in the desert and it's very cold in the jungle. So you need to rely on things. You need to wear sandals, you need to wear gloves. So when you touch something that's hot, it doesn't hurt you. When you walk on something that's really cold, it doesn't hurt you. You need to grab onto those things. And show business is one of the toughest businesses around. You got show business, you got fashion, you got politics, you got gangsters, the gangster life. Those are tough lives.
But do you realize when you're factoring in who loves you, does it occur to you that you are very beloved by millions and millions of fans who just love you?
Thanks. I forget. I forget. Maybe other people in my business forget too. When you're sitting alone in your house and you don't hear the crowd roar, you can forget. And when someone is telling you that they believe otherwise and you're alone, you can forget. And you have
But
to be very, very careful.
when I read out that introduction to you, of all the things you've achieved, both in the industry and as a humanitarian, did it not make you feel like you've done a lot in your life? You are hugely beloved, popular, and accomplished.
Yes. And I wanted to ask you if you could send Judy, my wonderful publicist, that list, because nobody has ever collated a list of my accomplishments like you've done. And I'm going to remind her to ask you because I forgot some of those things that I did. I don't often think about Guttenhouse or working for those glasses for the kids, and or learn, the lymphedema society, that because my mom has lymphedema, that I'm an honorary board member. I forget these things. I tend to forget my accomplishments. And there's a great book. David forgot his name. Oh, he was a Navy SEAL, and he said it's very important for you to have a cookie jar near you, and in the cookie jar are all your accomplishments, so you remember. I go into people's offices. You go into people's buildings where they have their offices. They have posters and pictures and the awards to remind everybody and themselves. This is what you did. This is what you did. Brings you power. So I'm human. And I forget quite often who I am, what I've accomplished. And it's very, very important not to be boastful all the time and not to be oh, just
Egotistical.
ego. Yeah, and
But I'm
you know,
glad that I was able to remind you because I want you
um,
to know how special you are and how your book really touches the reader. I mean, I felt your father's presence when I was preparing this interview. I feel his presence now. I think he's guiding
wow,
you and protecting you. And,
wow.
I only have one more question for you, and it's this. Your very first acting job, as you mentioned, was in a Kentucky Fried Chicken commercial. Now, when you look back at everything you've done since then, have you had the career that you envisioned for yourself all those years ago when you were a kid and you wanted to be a movie star?
I did. I have. I've become everything I wanted to be. And I'm very grateful for that. Yes, I envisioned getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And there was my mom and my dad sitting right there. And they saw it, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I've been on the Academy Awards, and my mom and dad got to see that. You know, I've been in movies with very, very accomplished, talented people. My mom and dad got to meet them. I've met several presidents, had photographs with them, and my mom and dad have that in their house.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a Yiddish term called nachas. You gave your parents nachas, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Harvey. You are really a special guy. You are so generous and so hardworking, and you're so smart about everything. Your questions are so sensitive and encouraging. Your manner, your laser focus. You're a really, really special interviewer, and I've done thousands of interviews, but very rarely do I ever have anybody as good, as kind, as talented, as smart, as studied as you are. You're a really, really wonderful person. All the time you put into this, to ask me questions, to look into who I am. You're a very, very, very unique and special man. And I am so honored and grateful that I got to do this with you. There's not many people on this planet like you, not many at all.
Well, Steve, you got me all verklempt. I just want to tell you one thing. Besides, thank you so much for that. Your dad often said that what creates a great life are moments, special moments. And in your book, you shared a lot of those father-son moments with all of us. The trips to Adventureland, your dad teaching you to work out, lighting firecrackers in your backyard, shoveling snow in your pajamas, taking your parents to Italy for their 50th anniversary and to movie premieres, having meatball hero sandwiches every Saturday, and so much more. Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for sharing your dad and your mom with all of us. Thank you for the incredible performances you've given us that have enriched our lives so much. And thank you for taking the time to appear on our little show.
It's not a little show, it's a big show. And you are a giant, a real giant. Thank you so much, Harvey. I really appreciate you. And I want to tell you right now, if you ever need anything, if you need anything, I want you to put me in your holster. I want myself to be one of your bullets, that if you need anything, call on me. Call on me. And I want you to consider me your friend. I'll always be here for you, Harvey. You're really special.
Right back at you, Steve. It's been a great honor, and I really do feel like I made a new friend. Our guest has been the iconic actor and author Steve Guttenberg, whose latest book entitled Time to Thank, Caregiving for My Hero, will be available on May the 21st on Amazon and wherever books are sold. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you to my producer, Steve Silver, my director of programming, Robert Monaghan, my PR directors, Eileen Shapiro and Jimmy Starr, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK. And a very special thank you to Judy Katz. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.